All right, question number 10, and this is what this podcast is about, Steve. I don't know if you saw the intro, but my father lost all his money when I was young. He was in a company called Estate Mortgage. Do you remember them?
My grandmother lost a lot of money to estate mortgage as well, I think.
Yeah. Right, okay. And, they advertised themselves as safe as houses, but they were really investing in, third mortgages into development sites, etc. So Warren Buffett said, rule number 1, never lose money. And rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. How, as investors, can we not lose money, Steve?
I think you need to protect against yourself.
In what way?
Well, we're hardwired to be greedy, and what we do is we make decisions that we otherwise shouldn't make because we either don't look for the truth, or if the truth is staring us in the eye, we tend to ignore it. It's just remarkable how many people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars buying investment property with little to no due diligence, but when they go and buy a $10,000 used car, they'll crawl over it with a fine-tooth comb. How many people have bought a house for hundreds of thousands of dollars without a building inspection, yet they'll want a car inspection on a $10,000 used car? There's a disconnect in the way people think about money. So I would say the first thing, in order to avoid losing money, is create accountability and rules around protecting yourself from yourself. And if I look at your dad's situation, why did he invest in estate mortgage? Was it for the extra 1 or 2% they were offering?
Absolutely, it was only 1 or 2% above the normal banks. That's right.
So you have to look at, yes, the wrong thing was done with that money. The people who should have been better managers were not better managers, and so he took a risk. I often say money follows management. So you need to invest in the management and do your due diligence on the management. But what I would have said is there was something, perhaps a better plan that your dad needed than trying to get an extra 100 or 200 basis points out of fixed interest returns. He was taking a risk and wasn't really being paid for it. And perhaps he should have invested some of that money in his education to be able to be better able to protect himself and from others. But it's also hard because you're trusting people and paying them money to do the right thing. But when it comes to most people, money corrupts their moral compass, and therefore it doesn't point north anymore, and people will justify all sorts of things on the basis of having more money.
Interesting. They also were misleading, though, as well, in that their advertising was, they were very much advertising that it was safe as houses, and from what you saw, you wouldn't have known that it was into development sites, and someone like my father would have flicked through the PDFs like a lot of people do and not understand it. So I don't really think that.
Well, in those days, offer documents were probably more simple, and there wasn't the same level of consumer protection around corporations law and what you have to put in offer documents. I mean, the reason why we have increased compliance today is because people keep doing the wrong things. So the government has to keep inventing new laws to try and get people's moral compass to point north, because it doesn't naturally point north on its own. And while it's a frustration to me, the amount of compliance that we have to do and how much it costs the investors to meet that compliance burden, it's necessary because it forces us into accountability to ensure that we continue to do the right thing.
Yeah, which is comforting.